supposed to be an airplane, just in case you were wondering. Oh, cock! Oh no, he's ruining it!
I mean, in the first instance, how did the story and the project kind of come to you, and what was your first reaction when you read the script?
First of all, I want to say, I think it's deeply unprofessional of Hey You Guys to, you know, situate me for an interview, like right in front of a giant cock that they drew. Yeah, that's not fair. That undermines me. It's undermining, okay? I don't like giant purple cocks near my head. I also put the name of the film, Jet Tramp, which is the name of the movie.
The real name of the movie.
And there's an airplane there, but it looks more like a sort of a
starfish.
Yeah, or a kind of a banana, a nuclear banana that's been half peeled.
First off, congratulations on the movie.
Why, thank you.
It's fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks, mate. Yeah.
You're obviously the movie's going to be coming out in a few weeks in December, but obviously you've been to Edinburgh and had the festival there. Was that the first time you'd shown the film to kind of an audience?
It was the first time we showed the film to an audience, yeah, and it was interesting because we got quite a mixed reaction, you know. I mean, often with film festivals, you have all the people there who are there to support you and encourage you and go, "Well done, it was brilliant. It was brilliant." And you know, people who meant it, really and truly. And then there were people who were like, "But wait, why was it Christmas?" Just like people who sort of were quite sort of taken aback by the whole thing and quite shocked as to I think how we made the film, which is good. You know, it left some burgeoning questions in people's minds, like, did we actually kill that cow? And I'm not going to answer that.
You'll never know. I mean, in the first instance, how did the story and the project kind of come to you, and what was your first reaction when you read the script?
We shot this film almost 3 years ago. Wow. And due to I think post-production arguments and everybody fighting for what they wanted, and the fact that we had largely run out of money at that point meant that the post-production part of things sort of went on longer than we thought. But it was to the good, you know, because there got to a point in the post-production where I was away and they were back, and you know, we were essentially on a deadline, and that deadline meant we had to be fully picture locked, which meant, of course, editing, and then you could start sound production and, you know, all that stuff, effects. So it got to the point where they were like, we have to picture lock now. And there was, you know, 2 or 3 of us in the camp who were going, "No, the film is better than this. We can unlock it and keep going. We have to keep editing." So then we, you know, we searched within ourselves as to how to make the film better, and then we asked a few other people whose opinions that we respected. And so all of that process took, you know, a good 1.5 to 2 years, and then we got into post-production. So the film took a long time to get finished, you know, but I think it was all the better for it.
Yeah. And you're one of the producers as well, so you must have been part of the process all the way through.
Yeah,
all the way through, and all of that stuff, because you want a tight budget and everything else. You were there from kind of beginning to end. That must have been a different experience for you.
It was the first time that old Rob was in the producer's chair, which was an interesting experience, because I mean, my role was very much of the creative, you know, in the sense that I wasn't one of the grown-up producers who was structuring financial deals, because I would be highly unqualified to do that. But it was lovely. We all collaborated on the script. I mean, the script was an amorphous thing, in the sense that it just continued to change and change and change and become more complex, actually, because the script, it's certainly the complexity of it grew as we got closer to filming. And then, so that required all of us throwing in ideas, adding elements to it, and sort of, you know, trying to round out the characters and make them as real as possible, and not just make a sort of an A to B thriller. So that was important. And then There was the whole sort of, there was right in the location, so we went out to India, we ran around Goa, taking pictures of places, and then casting, you know, so all of that stuff, all of the creative side of the producing was the stuff that I was heavily involved with, you know, and then there was an element of charming money people as well, taking them out for Indian curries and going, go on, here's an information pack, give us 50 grand, go on, go on, go on.
Please.
Yeah. So there was a bit of that as well.
Let me ask you about, you mentioned there about casting. You were part
Yeah.
of the kind of process.
Yeah.
What was it about the guys, you know, through Sophia and up to Craig and everybody else that was involved in the movie that kind of sold you on them and you thought they would be the kind of perfect people for it?
Sophia, she came in and she was the first and only to read, because I mean, you know, when an actor's coming in, you can get a sense of whether or not they want to do it, I think, by the noises they're making and their agent is making. So she was enthusiastic about the project, I think, and she came in and she just, I mean, the funny thing is that I hadn't really said any of the dialogue out loud. I hadn't had any time to rehearse, so she put me to shame, you know, because I was reading with her. And she just was totally like cool and calm and relaxed, and I was a bit like, so she just left, and we were like, perfect. If it's not broke, you know what I mean? So we just offered it straight to her, and thankfully she accepted. And then Ozzy, who plays Saul, that was a process of, that was a day's casting with a bunch of actors who were all brilliant. I mean, that's the heartbreaking thing about being on the other side of the casting table, is that you have actor after actor after actor coming in, giving you something, you know, a variation of unique on what you've given them. And it's really interesting when they come in, you go, oh, that person would be good and that person would be great. And then it just comes down to a very, very specific sensibility, or what goes best with my character, you know what I mean? What will complement Lee best. So all that stuff is sort of heartbreaking and tough, but it's good. It sort of refines your own ability to know what you like and know what's best, and, you know, maybe makes you a little bit more hard-headed, but in a good way. So that was good. Craig came on a bit later, and we were incredibly lucky to get him. And he had a tough role, I think, Craig Parkinson, because he had this character who was sort of Shakespearean and could have been played very theatrical, but he played it very, you know, very straight and very sort of real, you know. So he was great. And who else do we have? Oh, Jasper. Jasper was my idea. Jasper Pakkonen, who plays Mike. I knew Jasper because I had met Jasper through, there's an Irish film festival called Subtitle Film Festival, which is a celebration of European films not in the English language. And there's a guy who's essentially a serial festival starter called Richard Cook, who we both know. In fact, Richard is his agent. So he was at this festival with a film that he was in, a Finnish film. And I had seen this Finnish film. And it's called Heart of a Lion, right? And if there are any cinephiles out there, you should check out this Finnish movie, Heart of a Lion, with Jasper from Jet Tramp, right? And Peter, no, won't come to me, where they play brothers and they're white supremacists, and it's just, it was an amazing film. So I sort of knew Jasper, and I knew that I could contact him and sort of, you know, make the connection. So yeah, we watched that movie, and we talked to him, we loved him, so we brought him to India as well. And yeah, we all had a ball, man. It was great.
How was it filming in India? Because I'd heard that, well, in something that's on a bit of paper behind us here.
Oh yeah.
Some stuff kind of went on, and you were against the budget and everything else. But what was the experience like filming over there and kind of getting into the film over there?
India. You know what? India was hectic and chaotic, but it was hectic and chaotic in the way that it was expected to be. You know what I mean? It could have been a lot worse. You know, we had a couple of really good people on the ground in India who were there specifically to help us to avoid any people of authority coming up and demanding bribes or any of that kind of thing, which is a commonplace in India. If you are an outsider filming there, you can be shaken down, and we couldn't afford to do that because we didn't have the money. You know, we were completely poor. Which was to our benefit, shooting in India, because I think they knew not to tried to shake us down because we looked like we didn't have any money. You know, we were just a very, very small crew, moving very quickly. So it was chaos, but I mean, me as a producer, I was very much the role of actor by the time I got to India, because I couldn't be both in India. Once the film started, you know, I had to just concentrate on doing the role and let the other grown-ups be the producers. So a lot of the chaos I was insulated from.
Was it a lot of chaos, or was it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, one of the pieces of chaos that I wasn't insulated from was when we were doing a shot of me coming down this bank of gravel on the moped.
Oh yeah.
And one of the stunt guys gave me some wonderful advice and told me to pull the front brakes as opposed to the back, right? And the bike started to skid out, and next thing I knew, I was like flying down this gravel bank with the bike on top of me, and then sort of looking down and thinking, my legs might be broke. And just in slow motion, seeing everyone run towards me going, Rob, are you okay? Yeah, so that was quite a mad moment. But then I just went down the road to a clinic and got fixed up. It was just cosmetic, so thankfully we could carry on. But we came close to catastrophe a couple of times, you know, but thankfully nothing capsized us.
It's a very stylistically, the film's very distinctive. You know, it's awash with lots of colour and it reminded me of like early Nicholas Winding Refn kind of movies.
Yeah.
Was that something that Charles brought to the table when he came on as a director, that he said this is the way that we can tell the story even better? I
think it was a conversation between him, Charles, and the DOP Maya. Between the two of them, they wanted the England stuff and the India stuff to look very, very distinctive, you know, and very, very specifically different to one another. And so, I mean, you know, in India, man, all you got to do is fucking point the camera, you know, in one direction, as long as it's a sort of an interesting, you know, backdrop, and you get so much value for just being there. And then in the post-production, the grade was when the sort of surreal colouring started to happen. So I think that was when himself and Maya really started to play with colour and surrealism, because the film is surreal, you know. The film goes from sort of real to kind of surreal, in the sense that it starts off in a very kind of there's essentially a business transaction that goes wrong in the UK, you know, and where it ends them up is this sort of bizarre, you know, completely sleep deprivation, bizarre kind of on the run situation where they're kind of fighting for their lives in the wastelands of India. And so the film, I think, as it goes on, takes a more and more surreal kind of place, and I think the colouring of the film reflects that. So fun time for the characters to spend Christmas. For that 2-day period where you start on Christmas Eve and then by Boxing Day you're where you are. To be honest, most of my Christmases are spent sat on my parents' couch, like despondent, eating chocolate. So, you know, it'd be a welcome change. And now you've got to a point where the film, you know, you've had this 3-year journey, and now the film's about to come out in cinemas. Yeah. As a producer and an actor, you must be so delighted that you're now at that point where you get to show audiences and everything. It's brilliant, man, because to be honest, you know, because it was a long time coming, this stage, you know, a part of you goes, oh, are we ever going to get there? Are we ever going to get a good distribution? Is this film going to see the light of day? Because, you know, you guys and I well know that there are lots of films that don't. So I'm just absolutely ecstatic about the film coming out, you know. And I'm really proud of the film, you know. I love the performances. I love how the film is. It's beautiful. It's just it's like a lovely chapter from my life, you know. It represents that. So it's lovely that we get to show it off to the world, yeah. And you've been a busy man in other stuff as well. You've got Fortitude Series 2, I think you're involved with on Sky, which must have been a very different challenge. Indeed. And then you've worked with Dean Devlin, is that correct, on his new big movie? Dean the Devil Devlin, yeah. How has that been going from this movie that you spent so much time personally on to go to these kind of bigger projects? Good, yeah, good. I'm actually not. I'm starting that film with Dean next month, Bad Samaritan. yeah, I'm doing a movie in Berlin, which is also a big, exciting thing. It's cool. And it's been really fun. Yeah, so Fortitude is coming out in January, I believe, which is quite fitting because, you know, it's set in the Arctic wilds and everybody will be, you know, sat in their couches with their pajamas on, watching, hopefully.
How was it working with Dennis Quaid? What a legend.
Do you know what? It's just such a shame because, you know, like TV shows, because they have all their own sort of strands of story, you tend to intersect very rarely with the other parts of the show, you know. So the only time, I mean, I did one scene where technically me and Dennis Quaid are in it, but I was on the outside of a pub and he was on the inside. And then it sort of becomes a chase, and then he's sort of chasing me through the wild. So we don't really have, you know, we didn't really have anything together, unfortunately. But hanging out with him was cool, man. Every night at the hotel, he was like banging out tunes on the guitar and the piano, blues. I think he's still a little bit Jerry Lee Lewis, you know what I mean? Great Balls of Fire.
Classic film.
Oh yeah.
Classic.
So that was fun. That was great. It was a lovely project. It's one of them projects where you go off to the middle of nowhere and you're all sort of thrown together and you have to get on because you're family for, like, you know, a stretch of time. Yeah. So yeah, and it was a very different challenge because I mean, the character that I play in Fortitude is really bizarre and extreme. And the challenge was to kind of, again, make it real, you know. I mean, Fortitude's foundations are in horror and sort of supernatural sort of, I don't know, I mean, it's at its core, it's a graphic novel, you know. It's a really strange show. So I think there's an importance to bring an element of reality to it. Yeah. So in my character, I mean, I don't know what I'm supposed to say and what I'm not supposed to say, you know what I mean? I'm telling you, man, these institutions that we actors work for, hey, you guys, I tell you, I play a shaman character who has come to the town and is shaking things up. I'm being all vague, you know.
It's good to be vague. Exactly. No spoilers and stuff. Get people interested, yeah.
It'll wet your whistles and you'll actually watch the show.
Just finally, I was going to ask you before we wrap up, was it good to get back into TV after obviously having quite a lot of success with Misfits, going into something in Fortitude? And do you enjoy doing the bigger projects, or would you prefer to go back to something a bit smaller like Jet Trash in the future? Well,
I thankfully have had a mix of those two things in my life for the last while because I'm doing, I just did this movie in Australia, which was written and directed by Britain's own Ben Elton, which is really fun. It's a sort of it's a kind of a romantic comedy that's set in a fictional folk music festival in Western Australia, because he lives in Western Australia, and it's sort of based on a festival that happens there. But so that project is called Three Summers, and that project was quite little, you know, and it had the lovely sort of familial sense of, right, we have very little money but lots of passion. Let's make something great. Come on. And so I just did that, and now I'm doing this film in Germany, which I'm not allowed to mention. Which is a big project. And so, but again, the thing is, right, that when you actually get onto the set of a thing, you know, you've gone through all of the stages of, right, this is what we're going to make you look like, and this is what we're going to, you know, this is essentially when you created all the hair and makeup and costume and stuff, that's where you see the money. You know, and where they drive you around and what sort of hotel they put you in, right? That's where the money, and obviously on set too, but I just mean, you know, the frequency of how you film something doesn't change, you know, between Fortitude and, you know, a big movie or a small movie. Essentially, everybody's up against the clock, and so everybody has to film the same sort of speed. So really, as an actor, after a while, there really is quintessentially no difference in acting in either, you know. So the preference, I mean, yeah, I like nice hotels. I like to have a nice per diem, you know. I like the travel. So it's nice to have a mix, I suppose, you know. I think I started off with a different point, but then ended up somewhere completely different.
Lots to look forward to there.
Loads to look forward to,
Loads to look
yeah.
forward to. Must be very exciting.
You're gonna have like an there's gonna be like an overflow of Rob in 2017, man. Oh! There'll be a Rob orgy. Small screen, big screen, little tiny iPhone screen, whatever you masturbate to, right? Whatever your machine is that you wank near, don't worry, I'll be on it soon.
Listen, good luck with the movie and Jet Trash and everything else. You can say hello if you want to the camera.
Just, yeah, but you've got to leave that in. That was fun.
Thank you so much for your time. I'll give you a handshake. Thank you so much for your time. That was great.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey!